Claire says, I think instead of special visas for people to come to Australia, we should make aged care a viable career choice for Australians, make the profession a valued role and pay people commensurably, says Claire in Campbell. Well, yes, there is a labour shortage in aged care. This has been widely talked about for quite some time. Should there be a special visa for people to come to Australia just to work in the aged care sector? Melinda Calento thinks that this could be the answer. She's the Chief Executive of the Committee for Economic Development of Australia, and she joins us now. Good morning, Melinda. Welcome to you.
Yeah, good morning, Saskia.
Why is an aged care visa the solution in your mind?
Well, firstly, I'm just going to jump straight in and say I do agree with Claire as well. But we've got a chronic workforce shortage that we're facing in the aged care sector. By our estimates, it could reach 400,000, shortage of 400,000 by 2050.
Wow.
So we need to pull all the levers available to us. The sector already relies on a considerable migrant workforce as it is, but instead of coming in with the skills and experience to work in the sector, they're sort of coming in on these sideways pathways. So what we're suggesting and what we're calling on the government to do is to create a specific skills visa that would allow aged care workers to bring in the people with the skills and experience they need quickly and efficiently.
What visas are used at the moment for people wanting to work in aged care? For example, is the Pacific Australia Labour Mobility Scheme adding more workers in this space?
No, it's more other temporary visas that people have come in. So they're coming in as, partners and things like that. But the government's recognised that we do need an essential skills pathway. They agreed that and announced that in their migration strategy. They've been adopting something called labour agreements, which allows aged care employers to agree a memorandum of understanding and go through a whole bunch of processes to bring workers in. What our research has shown is that those agreements aren't working. They're not bringing the new workers in that we need. And so that we think there's a need for an essential skills visa to do that, make it faster and easier and quicker for employers and for the migrants themselves.
Are there other industries where something like this has proven successful?
Look, we've got other visas that target skilled workers that have proven to be quite successful in responding quickly and efficiently to skilled shortages. The challenge for the aged care sector is really the one that Claire sort of alluded to. They're not highly paid jobs, and so they don't fall within the normal sort of skills brackets that we think about for the visa system and the migration system. So we do need to be developing a targeted approach for essential skills, particularly in the care sector, and one that is mindful of the fact that we've got obviously to protect terms and conditions and in fact grow those, but also still have an efficient way of bringing migrant workers in.
There has been concerns and reporting about some workers being exploited who've come in on other labour visas, for example, in the farming sector. How would you ensure that workers are protected and not exploited if they were being promised, a stay in Australia to work in aged care?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we would propose, really the way we would see the system working is that employers would register to be able to bring workers in. Migrants would themselves register and nominate to be considered. Those migrants would then, obviously go through the process of having their skills and experience vetted and all the rest of it. But once they're in the country, our system would see them, see us nominating, see us letting the unions know that workers were coming in so the unions could keep track of terms and conditions. And we would be looking for the system to be reviewed every 3 to 5 years to make sure it's working. And employers who were found not to be doing the right thing, of course, then wouldn't have access to the system.
My guest is Melinda Calento, who is the CEO of the Committee for Economic Development of Australia. You mentioned there that the workers' skills and experience would be vetted. What kind of level of training would these workers be expected to have?
Look, I think that's something we can sort of work through, but it's basically the sort of skills and experience that you need now to be working in the sector. So it's not setting a higher sort of benchmark, it's meeting the needs that we've got in the workforce now. But the process would allow us to identify the right workers for the jobs that are here in Australia and the shortages that we need to fill.
Recently, there's been a lot of conversation about immigration, the immigration rate in Australia. There were large protests related to this about a month or so ago. Melinda, what would you say to people who are concerned about the immigration rate being too high?
Look, I think it's really important that we've got a migration system that has the support and trust of the community. We've been supporters of a long-term strategy as the government announced in its migration strategy. In terms of this specific issue about bringing people into work in the care sector, I think the two things that I would note are one, that we're already relying on a lot of migrant workers in that workforce. So we're not suggesting that we do something that's radically different to what's already going on at the moment. And I think the other thing that the community, of course, is going to be very interested in is that we're able to provide the care and services for an ageing population that is needed and that they expect. So I think it's got that sort of slightly different complexion, if I could put it that way.
And what's the appetite been for this, Melinda? Have you had any response from government for what you're calling for?
Look, I think the government is open for it. As I said, they've acknowledged the need for an essential skills pathway, but we've got to work through the process. We're just really looking for them to fast track it, and we're obviously looking forward to working with them to achieve that outcome.
Melinda Cilento, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Saskia.
That's the CEO of the Committee for Economic Development of Australia there.